Like they've had this question several times.
Let me hear it.
Okay, because you've really got to respond to it. So the whole idea of better healthcare, universal healthcare, how can you trust the government to deliver Medicare for all?
God damn this. Are you kidding me?
No.
This is that question?
This is his question. And
okay, here's the question. Here's the answer. How do you trust the government to get the water to your house every day? How do you trust the government to get the sewage out of your toilet every day? How do you trust the government? I don't know. If you ask people, if they do surveys, the most popular health insurance program in the country is Medicare. So I want one that's better. So I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, but it certainly is going to be better than a for-profit system that has us paying double what the rest of the world pays for worse outcomes. Why is it the rest of the world's governments can somehow deliver health care in a way that's half as expensive and gives you better results? I want that. And again, the government isn't giving you health care. They're paying for it. The government's not going to run the hospital I go to. The government's not going to run my doctor. What the government is going to do is cut a check to the doctor that I go see. That's what the government's going to do. The government isn't going to hire a doctor and send me to a government doctor. I'm going to my regular doctor, except that now it doesn't cost twice as much because we're cutting out the middleman and we're regulating drug prices. That's the difference. Okay. Hey, how could you drive on a road? It's been built by the government. How could you go into a post office? It's built by the government. How could you go into a library? It's built by the government. How could you go into a college? It's built by the government. Again, that doesn't mean it's perfect. It means it's better than a for-profit idea of how to deliver education or health care. Does that answer the question, you think?
Did you ever go into debt because of medical bills?
Yes. Guess what else you don't do when you have Medicare for All? You don't have to worry about getting sick and going broke. Because you know how many medical bankruptcies they had in Canada last year? 0. You know how many the year before? 0. You know how many people died because they couldn't get health care? Probably 0. So there you go. In America, people are on the streets. They're bankrupt. I got bankrupted because of health care, and I had insurance. Most people who go bankrupt from a medical bill have insurance. So that's the jokey there. So that's why. So that question, people always say that. They say, if you don't trust the government, why do you want them to run your health care? They're not going to run my health care. They don't run. They pay the doctors. My father, when he goes to a doctor, he doesn't go to a government. He's not seeing a G-man. He's going to his regular doctor. The same doctor he went to see when he was working, and now he's retired. Same doctor, he doesn't have to pay for it. That's the difference. And there isn't a middleman charging 30% markup. Okay, so
all right, that's great.
But if you want to trust big pharma, you think big pharma and big health insurance companies are giving you a better deal than you would get from a public option? Do you know what the public option even is? Do you think you're getting a better deal from Aetna and Blue Cross and big pharma than you would be getting from a public option or Medicare for All? Do you really think that? Well, you're uninformed in the extreme.
So basically what Sanders is saying is, hey, I want to raise everyone's taxes and give you shitty healthcare, which will be rationed, by the way. Do you think once the market is flooded with all of these millions of new people, you think that won't lead to higher waiting times for most basic forms of care? You'll get the basics, like in socialist countries. Usually the healthcare system for basic things is pretty good. Like if you go to Cuba, yeah, you can get a crate load of inhalers really cheap. As far as getting your basic pills, your basic care, basic like dentistry, like get a cavity filled, yeah, the healthcare system is pretty good for stuff like that. Now try going in for now try going in for an organ transplant or for elective surgery or anything like that. Ultimately the problem is people like to own things. People like to make their own decisions. To an extent, they also beckon authoritarianism, which I think is a negative thing about certain people. But generally speaking, if they're like, hey, I produced, I did my productive thing, I went to work, I invented something, I wrote a book or whatever, I made money, I should be able to spend it on what I fucking want to. If I want healthcare, I'll get it. If I don't want it, why is the government trying to nanny me? Leave me alone. And it'll be shitty healthcare too. So basically what Bernie Sanders' bullshit plan boils down to is if we raise taxes massively, we can actually save money. But that's not saving money, that's just raising taxes and creating a new entitlement. It just happens that the tax increases, which are massive, will outweigh that. And that's only a claim. And I don't think that it's a true claim, because what will happen is if you raise taxes to that onerous level, if you really want to increase taxes on some small business by 4 points at this current moment, and if you were to raise the margin, the marginal tax rate on even middle income earners, like people that are earning, like fucking, 100K a year is basically upper middle class at this point. If you want to raise their taxes to that degree, a lot of jobs will dry up. Some of those people, you're talking about, well, I want to raise the taxes on this earner to 60%. Okay, so you want that small business owner to make the tough decision of saying, well, I got 10 employees, I can only keep like 6 of them. I can't afford to pay the rest. You want to raise minimum wage to $1,000 an hour too, probably, because he's a socialist. It's not going to work. No, that business will cut a few employees. They'll cut corners. That person will take a pay cut themselves just to bump themselves down out of that tax bracket. People will work less. Yes, there will be. We would literally be disincentivizing productivity. That's exactly the opposite of what we should do. No, what we should do is privatize the healthcare system as much as possible. It works for everything else. If government were to get involved, like in the publishing industry, the books I sell on Amazon would cost $50 a pop, probably. Therein lies your problem. And then I'd still only be getting like, a couple dollars a copy. It's not like I would be the one benefiting. No, the government would, because it's a fucking parasite. It's a leech. It's like a tumor. That's about all. Peace out.